You're watching The Sports Objective, the podcast for Pirates.
College football fans, welcome into the show tonight. Another episode of Sonny and Semenza. Unfortunately, Sonny, Jay Sunhalter, cannot be with us tonight. He had some work obligations. So our own Bubba Rosenbaum is going to be filling in for Sonny tonight. Hopefully, Bubba, hopefully you can make some good picks. What do you think, buddy?
No doubt. Looking forward to talking some college football and definitely have some good games to discuss this week and some pretty challenging picks.
Absolutely. And, Pirate fans, I want to welcome in and give a special welcome to my former coach, Jeff Connors, who, I played for Coach 25 years ago. I'll still run through a brick wall for this guy tonight. And, Coach, thank you very much for joining us and welcome to the show. How's everything going?
Everything's going great in my world. I'm really happy to be on the show. This is a little bit different than my podcast, so change it up a little bit. Makes my life a little more exciting, so ready to roll.
Absolutely, guys. We got some very difficult games this week. Obviously it's getting late in the season. Hard to believe it's going by so fast, and there's 3 or 4 weeks left, and starting to get deep into conference play and rivalries. Some good rivalry games this week. The weather is definitely changing up north here. It's getting very cold. You're starting to see some snow and some sleet. So that will certainly have an impact on a lot of these games. But, nonetheless, guys, we have 5 really good ones this week. I had a really hard time picking them when I was doing some research earlier. But, hey, let's go ahead and have some fun with it and see what we can do. Bubba, do you want to throw up the season records up on the screen?
Yeah, taking a look at the season records, we have Jay Sunhalter. He is, there we go, 20-21-1. And then, Matt, you were 21-20-1. So we're down to the final month and very, very close right now.
So you can see by that, Coach C, we're not exactly blowing it out of the park. But, one thing I'll say is like we try to find the toughest games of the week, so we're not like just looking for like gimmies. We're trying to find the toughest, best games of the week. So we're both sitting right around 500. Sunhalter's making a little bit of a run on me in recent weeks, but we'll see what we can do this week. So not too bad. But Coach,
the reason I have never been a betting man is because I know too much about football, in that I believe that passion and emotion matters, and I believe that that's why we have what is referred to as upsets frequently in college football. Because the men and a lot of the other factors are big issues as well, but I think a lot of people, if they could really understand the mentality of football week in, week out, and what teams show up week in and week out with the same level of passion and emotion for the game, I think those things really make a difference.
No doubt about it, Coach. And, you were, how many times in your career at East Carolina were you an underdog, a major underdog in a game where, your team was able to be on the, the victorious side because of those exact things you just talked about? I'm guessing probably 20, 25 wins you were a part of at ECU. We were probably a heavy underdog, right?
Well, I mean, I think it's exactly the Power Five wins that that I was able to be on the sideline for were, I think it's 35. And very proud of those wins because I would say probably in 90% of them, we were the underdog. So, and I don't think that's an exaggeration. But I think that mentality, of course, which we all will remember, I will treasure the rest of my life because I think it was such a unique and special time in the history of a program. I'll never quit talking because it was the mentality of the players and the leadership that really was the key to us having so much success. I don't know, probably more than any of us who coached. I just think that the guys that stepped on the field had so much and really invested so much in their preparation year round. Those things, are priceless.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, I always tell everybody that, personally, Coach, you had as much of an impact on East Carolina football as any coach that's ever come through that program. So, I appreciate you. All the guys do, I'm sure, and it's great looking back, and it's always great catching up with you. And as we go into this show, after we go through these games, we're going to touch a little bit on the ECU Tulane game coming up this weekend. I wanted to get your thoughts on that. But before we do, hey, let's get into it, fellas. Let's get into it. Here we go. Bubba, you want to throw the first game up on the screen? All right, Coach C. So we have the Texas Longhorns, number 7 in the country. They are 7-1, playing number 23 Kansas State at 6-2. Let's see. It is the Texas Longhorns are a 4-point favorite. This is a tough one. I'll go ahead and get started with this one, fellas. This is a really tough one for me because there are reports that Texas's quarterback Quinn Ewers might not be able to play in this game. He's got an injury to his shoulder, I believe. And so depending on which reports you read, he may or may not play. But really impressed with this Kansas State team. They kind of quietly under the radar are 6-2 and having a great year. Number 15 in the country in total offense. And when you look at them, Coach and Bubba, they're very balanced. They run the ball for 226 yards a game, and they pass for 238 a game. So very balanced, presents a lot of challenges for the defenses that they play against. And then, here's Texas, with a chance to, maybe crash the playoff party at some point this year if they can continue their winning ways. Tough game for me. It's in Texas, but the line is 4. And I do think, either team could win. I could see Texas winning this by a field goal. So I'm going to go Kansas State, guys, to cover the 4. They might not win, but I do think they'll cover the point spread. So I'll kick it over to you, Bubba. What are your thoughts on this one?
As you said, Kansas State has really been on a roll the last 2 weeks. They have outscored opponents, those opponents being TCU and Houston. They have outscored them 82-3 there in Manhattan. And prior to that, they had a solid win, 38-21 down in Lubbock. Not the easiest place to go and win, especially by that margin. So they really seem to be clicking on all cylinders. That is obviously the X factor for Texas with Quinn Ewers, and whether he'll be back or not. What I was seeing is at a grade 2 AC joint sprain for the redshirt sophomore quarterback on his throwing shoulder. This one, not really knowing his status, I think if he doesn't play, I like K-State. If Ewers does play, then I'd probably lean toward the Longhorns. So not knowing, I'll go with K-State as well.
Yeah, that's a tough one. That's a tough one. Good pick. Coach C, what do you think about this one?
Well, it's kind of like I'm very flattered here, and I told you that I spoke at about 2 or 3 nationals out in Las Vegas, but I never even gamble. So I'm not a big betting man. I didn't even play a slot machine when I was out there, but a few things here. So when I was at Carolina, we played at Texas. It was either my first or second year there. I don't remember. We played Texas, and that's a very tough place to play. I can tell you that. So I do remember the atmosphere. And my question is, what's up with Arch Manning? Is he not at Texas?
So he's at Texas. I believe he's redshirting this year. I know, Bubba, you probably know more about this than I do. I believe he's going to redshirt, correct? Is that the plan? He got a huge NIL deal, I want to say. Probably, I'm guessing
Right.
he got over $1 million to go there, or probably several million. What do you think there?
I know a week ago, you had Malik Murphy. He was playing in Ewer's absence
Well, that's the
against
freshman, right?
BYU.
There was a first week. Is that correct?
I'm not sure his class. You're probably correct. He 6'5", 240-pounder out of Inglewood, California. And last week against BYU in that 35-6 victory, he was 16 out of 25, 170 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick.
Okay. Yeah, it's a tough call. And I'm sure the situation has an impact. Hasn't been determined yet. Is that correct?
Hasn't been determined, but it looks like the line has stayed put a little bit. I'm guessing if just my opinion on this one, I'm guessing if he wasn't going to play, the line would probably drop a little bit. But as far as I know, it's still kind of sounds like it's a 50-50 type deal.
Yeah.
So
Matt,
that's what makes this one so hard. Yeah.
as of 2 days ago, it says, and this is from hook'emheadlines.com, it said there's still optimism that he'll return for the Longhorns before the regular season finale on November 24th. So the way and it said Murphy will start a second consecutive game for the Longhorns against K-State. So with that being said, yeah, I'll stick with the Wildcats.
Yeah, that definitely helps out. So yeah. Looks like we're going to get the backup, Coach.
Well, I'm going to say that Texas is going to be aware of the situation with their quarterback, and the rest of the team is going to rise up and take up the slack and come away with the victory. So I'm going to pick Texas on this one.
The horn. See, this is why I wanted Coach C on this show, Bubba, because he brings a whole different perspective, right? And it's funny. I mean, I know you mentioned, Coach, that you're not a gambler. You never have been, and it's funny. Like, I guess even had you wanted to, for it would have, you couldn't, because it would have been against NCAA rules. But now in retirement, we're happy to have you on this show. We can actually talk about it and not have to worry about that. But
there you go.
Good pick. I like it. Bubba, what did Sonny pick? Do you know what Sonny picked on this one? We should get his pick up.
Yeah, give me one moment, so I'll get that for you.
Yeah, no problem. And so yeah, that's gonna be
Jay took Texas. So we're 2-2.
All right. So Jay and Coach C have hook 'em horns. All right. Good stuff. What do we have next, Bubba?
Let's go to Stillwater, and we'll be seeing Bedlam for the last time until who knows when, as number 9 Oklahoma coming off that loss at Kansas. Sooners 7-1, taking on 22nd ranked Oklahoma State, 6-2. The Cowboys a 5.5-point dog to the Sooners. And, Oklahoma State, they really struggled early in the year offensively, but they've, on the other hand, really figured it out in recent weeks and have been playing some very good football. This is a 3:30 kickoff on ABC.
So, Bubba, why don't you kick us off here with your take on this game? Who do you have here?
On this one, with it being in Stillwater, does make it a little more challenging, in my opinion, with Oklahoma, coming off that loss at Kansas. Obviously, they're doing everything they can to get back on the winning track, and then this is Bedlam. So that goes without saying. Both of these teams are going to be locked in, and Oklahoma headed to the SEC. So, like I said, who knows when Bedlam will occur again. I think I'll take Oklahoma State in the points.
All right, I like it. Oklahoma guys, they surprised me a few weeks back when they beat Texas. I did not expect them to win this game, and then I think that they got a little, maybe a little too high off that win, Coach, and they had a little letdown against Kansas, which is certainly a game that I think they should have won. But to your point earlier, anybody can win on any given Saturday. But I think that's a wake-up call for Oklahoma. I'm guessing coaching staff probably dialed them back in practice this week. They're looking for a huge bounce-back game. Obviously a huge in-state rivalry here. And there was a stat, I think, Bubba, you may have mentioned earlier this year that they've played over 100 times. And what was that stat, if you could share that?
This game will be the 118th meeting in Bedlam, and it's crazy. I knew Oklahoma had dominated the series. I was expecting, a few years ago when I checked this stat to see what the series record was, I thought the Sooners had probably won 65 to 70% of the games, and they have certainly done that and then some. 91 wins, 19 losses, and 7 ties. So just total domination by the Crimson and Cream.
Yeah. So, with that said, I think Oklahoma is going to have a big bounce back week. I'm guessing coming off that loss, the coaching staff probably got on them pretty hard, got them focused. So I'm going with the Sooners, guys, to take care of business at Oklahoma State. Coach C, what do you think on this one?
Never coached at Oklahoma State. I know the strength coach. I did coach at Oklahoma. I think we opened with them my first year at Carolina. So I have been there. And, that's a pretty exciting play. Oklahoma, they got a knot jerked in their ass all week.
Yep.
So, they got to get back on track. Coach has got a good defensive mind from what I remember. So I'm looking for them to come out and hit the rival in the mouth, even though they're playing at Oklahoma State, correct?
Correct.
So, I just think that they've probably been working really hard this week, and I think they're going to be on point. So I'm going to go with Oklahoma.
Here we go, Sooners, Bubba. Here we go. We got and we got some comments too.
Johnny Robertson, JR chiming in on Facebook. Appreciate that. Johnny, he says Cowboys running back Ollie Gordon has 859 yards and 8 touchdowns in their last 3 games, and that the Oklahoma defense is dealing with some injuries.
Okay. See, Johnny Robertson is, Coach, I don't know if you know Johnny Robertson, but he brings incredible stats and information to this show. He finds these stats that I don't even know about half the time. So as usual, Johnny, we appreciate that, man. Now I feel worse about my pick though, because you're telling me the Sooners defense has a lot of injuries, so I don't know. But and then we got James, right, Bubba? We got a comment from James.
Yeah, Kyle's friend James from Hattiesburg, Mississippi says give him Oklahoma State, that he thinks Mike Gundy in this Bedlam matchup. Like I said, who knows when it will occur again. The Texas A&M rivalry has been dormant for several years due to Texas A&M moving into the SEC, but that will obviously, be occurring once again, I guess, beginning next year. But James says give him the Cowboys.
Yeah.
I like it. A lot of good takes here. A lot of back and forth. That's good stuff. Coach C, since you mentioned before we get into the next game here, I know over your career, you've had a chance to play in probably just about every conference, a million stadiums. Is there one stadium, when you think back on it, do you have a favorite stadium that you just like really enjoyed playing at the most? Is there one that sticks out?
Well, of course, at ECU, my first time around, and that was kind of a wake up call to see what it felt like with 100,000 people in the stadium. That was quite an experience.
Did you say Tennessee? It broke up there. I couldn't hear you.
Yeah, Tennessee.
Okay. Yeah, beautiful stadium.
And that was a great one, even though, I thought that the Pirates gave them a pretty good game with regard to, comparatively the talent and so forth that year. But that was it's the first time I ever was in a stadium that was that large. But
yeah.
My first we beat Clemson at Clemson. I think it was like 31-10. Had some great seniors, Julius Peppers, Ronald Curry, a lot of great seniors that year. And also the people, my first year at ECU, we won the Peach Bowl. My first year at Carolina, we beat Auburn in the Peach Bowl. So that was pretty special for me as well. That experience in that stadium. Yeah, I've had some crazy experiences. The chant at Wisconsin, I won't repeat what it was, but that was pretty interesting. We were going in at halftime. But yeah, those are some of of course, the stadium at Carolina was pretty special at times. And the biggest memory I have there, because I'm from, right in West Virginia. I played ball at school in West Virginia. My family are a bunch of coal miners. Bobby Bowden's team 41-7 at Carolina, that was kind of special for me. And because I'm Irish, playing at Notre Dame was also special, and beating Notre Dame at Carolina was. So I'll stop there.
That's awesome. Notre Dame is kind of like, it's on my bucket list to get out there for a game. I try to get to a game every year, like try to take in a new stadium, something different. And I love the tradition in college football, and that stadium in South Bend has a ton of tradition. And that's a place I really want to get to. But one of the stadiums I really loved playing at was something about Williams-Brice Stadium in South Carolina. I really liked that stadium. It's just a beautiful stadium. And you had the hedges all around the field. And, as you know, Coach, I mean, your teams had a lot of success there. It's just a fun place to play. So that one for me as a player, that one always kind of jumps out. I always enjoyed that.
Well, Matt, you certainly had.
I was just going to say, walked out with Steve Love, for him to shake Lou Holtz's hand, and Steve having a victory over Lou Holtz was real special for him, special for all of us. So, and of course, that was hurricane season as well. So we know all about that year, but that was very special.
Yeah, I think you won in that stadium, 3 or 4 times, right? As a coach. I know you won there at least 3 times with ECU, right?
10 years at ECU, South Carolina 5 times, and I can't remember. I know it was at least 2 times there, so maybe 3.
92, 90, 94, 96, and 99.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah. There you go. That's a good run.
I'm sick, Coach. I'm sick. No, in 94, and that was obviously the game where Mark Crandall and company lit them up, 56 points. And then that game in 96 was when Scott Harley ran for 291 yards, and we beat them 26-7, and it really wasn't that close.
Yeah.
Yeah, that game was over at halftime, I remember. I think it poured rain in the second half, if I remember.
Oh yeah, there was a downpour, and then it was funny, Matt. The Gamecock fans under the I guess it was the club level, or at least the hangover there, where they were nice and dry, and us Pirates, we were enjoying it, and we were just glancing up in their direction. We weren't even saying anything, and they were shooting us the bird.
Yeah, well, I remember one other game down there. You probably will remember it better than me, where we fumbled inside the 5-yard line like about 3 times.
Oh gosh, yeah. Instead of the red zone, we were calling it the twilight zone.
Yeah, so that should have been a victory as well.
Yep. What a day for Zay that day. 20, 21, 22 catches.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. That's a hell of a day. That's a career for some guys right there. But yeah, it's good stuff. Appreciate your thoughts on that, Coach. Bubba, what's the next game?
We're going down between the hedges. Eli Drinkwitz and the Missouri Tigers, ranked 12th, a 7-1 start. And then you have Georgia. They had some doubters going into the world's largest outdoor cocktail party, but they put it on the Gators 43-20 last week in Jacksonville, and they are a 15.5-point favorite in a game that's a 3:30 Eastern kick on CBS.
This is a tough one just because of the line. I mean, I think Georgia, I feel pretty confident Georgia is going to win the game, because I still think, I don't think they're number 2. I think they're number 1. And for me, when I look at Georgia, guys, they're the national champion. Somebody's going to have to beat them to take them out of that number 1 spot, because I think when push comes to shove, Georgia is the best team in the country. I really believe that. I think they have the most talent. I think they're the most complete team. So, but I really like what Missouri's doing at 7-1, playing really good football. They've been very consistent throughout the year. I think Georgia's going to win, but I do think Missouri is going to keep this game right around striking distance, like around 14 points, from anywhere from 10 to 14 points. So because the line is 15.5, I'm going to say Missouri covers the spread, but they don't win the game. So I'm going to go with Mizzou, fellas. And Coach C, I'll kick it to you. What do you think about this one? And we do have one of your former players and a colleague as a coach, David Blackwell, who Pirate fans will know is now coaching down at Missouri. So, wishing him well in this game.
Well, David, I think, is he a defensive analyst there now, or I'm not really sure what his position is. But
that sounds correct. I'll confirm that.
Okay. Well, I'm excited for David that he's there and he can experience this year at Missouri, because it's been a very special year for them. Reminds me actually of some of the years we had at ECU, where the excitement, the passion, the fan base just gets really cranked up, and you have that momentum which I think is very important moving into the next game, and really believing in your team and having everybody on your team believe. Just the power of agreement is extremely important. And I think that's what they have right now. I enjoy watching them play because they play with so much passion and emotion and camaraderie within the team, of course. And, winning week to week breeds that and makes it even stronger. And that's what I'm talking about with momentum. And I think that's big football. 15 and a half points is a lot.
Yeah.
I believe that Georgia's going to win the game just because they're so powerful from top to bottom. But at the same time, I feel the same way about the spread. I'm not sure they're going to beat the spread 15 and a half. And I think Missouri's going to come prepared. They're going to play with emotion. They're going to hit you in the mouth. Tackle. They're going to run to the ball. They're going to be some dog soldiers out there. So I got to take Missouri as well.
I like it. Mizzou. Bubba, we got.
Last year, Georgia had a very close call in Columbia. It was a game that many folks. I guess it was their closest call in the regular season, if I'm not mistaken.
That's right.
It was a game that they trailed by multiple scores and found a way to win it. I think last week, a lot of folks, being without Brock Bowers, in that rivalry matchup, a lot of folks were taking Florida, and definitely a hat tip to Eli Drinkwitz, and they have a very potent offense. They have struggled to stop people, and no, Georgia, and this sounds crazy to say, compared to some, they're not necessarily the most explosive offensively, but I think in this one, I think it could be close, but I'll go ahead and take the Dogs to barely cover that at home. I think it will be a cover late in the game. I agree with you guys that I don't think Missouri's going to go in there and get blown out by any means, but I could see Georgia scoring late to win this one by 17 or something.
All right. Good pick, man. And we have a comment from James. Let's see. James says, give me Georgia. They're just dominant on defense. Yeah. I mean, listen, I could, it's hard to go against that. I mean, like I said, I think they're the best team in the country. So I could see this one going either way. For those of you who don't know, James is a Southern Miss guy. So James is down in Mississippi. He's a big Southern Miss guy. So we appreciate your comments tonight, James. Thanks for chiming in. But a funny thing, there's an old saying in sports that when it comes to college football, I kind of disagree with it a little bit. People always say it's not about the X's and O's, it's about the Jimmies and the Joes. But I think in college football, it's about both, because I think in really more than any other sport, pro, college, basketball, whatever you're looking at, I think coaching in college football can create a huge advantage. Good coaching, good play calling, good preparation. So you got to have both. You got to have the Jimmies and the Joes, but you also have to have the X's and the O's. And, I think, when you look at both of these teams right now, both very well coached. So it's going to be a fun one to watch. I mean, a lot of talent on that field, but I guess we'll see how it goes, guys. This is a 3:30 game on CBS, so it's going to be a fun one to watch. So we'll see what happens.
Following that one up on CBS, Matt, will be 14th ranked LSU. You and I were talking about their offense and just how potent they are earlier this afternoon, and they are, being 14th, and despite those two losses, if the stars align and they're able to run the table, and that obviously starts this Saturday, 7:45 Eastern kick on CBS in Tuscaloosa against 7-1 Alabama.
Yeah, this is going to be a hell of a game. Coach, you might be surprised by this. When I was doing some research today, I was checking out, trying to see top offenses in the country, top defense. I was surprised to find out LSU is number one in the country in offense right now.
Yeah.
Number one in the country. They 553 yards a game. These guys are averaging. I mean, that is really impressive. They seem to score at will. They run the ball for 212 per game. They throw it for 340 a game. I mean, this is a potent offense, absolutely potent, which is different for Brian Kelly coming from Notre Dame. You didn't really think of him as a dynamic offensive coach, but I think he's just getting better talent down at LSU. But I think when you look at them, their issue is a little bit on the defensive side because as good as they are offensively, they give up a ton of points defensively. So this is going to be an interesting matchup. And, Alabama at home, 3-point favorite. It's hard to ever bet against Alabama at home, especially with Saban. But I just have a sneaky feeling, guys, that LSU, because of the amount of points they score and explosive offense, I think they're gonna pull an upset here. So might surprise you. I'm gonna take the LSU Tigers money line to win the game, just win it outright. So I'll go Tigers. What do you think of that, Bubba? We'll kick this one over to you next. What do you think there?
Let's see. Earlier this year, I'm trying to remember. I think it was the Ole Miss game. Ole Miss went into Tuscaloosa, and I want to say the Rebels were a 6.5-point favorite, if I'm not mistaken. But nonetheless, they lost the game, and after leading at halftime, Alabama really did what they needed to do in the second half, and that's the thing. Alabama has struggled to put two halves together. That game they played well in the second half against Arkansas. They jumped out to about a 3-touchdown lead or 21-3, and then had to hold on for dear life. So definitely we'll need to play a more complete game to take down LSU. But with the game being in Tuscaloosa, I don't know. I just have to. I think Bama will find a way to get it done. So it's hard to go against the Crimson Tide there at Bryant-Denny.
Yeah, I hear you. This is definitely a tough pick. So good points. I can't argue with any of that. Coach C, what do you think about this one?
I think Alabama's still a powerhouse to be dealt with. Probably what sways my opinion more than anything else is the quarterback at LSU. I've watched a couple of their games, and guy's really special. And I think that he's going to do well in the league in the future at some point as well. But yeah, I got you here. I just think that they're going to step up to the plate. They're going to score enough points to win. And, I think physically they match up pretty well with Alabama because they're a power. So, I'm looking for them, even though it's at Alabama, correct?
Yeah, it's in Tuscaloosa, yep.
Yeah, that makes a difference too, but I'm still going to go with LA.
Yeah. All right, I like it. Yeah, I mean, this is obviously a big game for both teams. I mean, with two losses, you're essentially out of the playoff, so Alabama at 7-1, if they lose this game, they're pretty much eliminated from playoff contention this year. So it's going to be an intense game. But I think Alabama this year is a better defensive team than they are offensive. They don't score as many points, and then like you were saying, you look at that quarterback for LSU, coach. He's dynamic athlete. He can do it all. So yeah, we agree. We'll go with the Tigers on that one. We got some comments here. What's up, Stevie? Thanks for chiming in, man. Stevie, what do you have on this one? What do you have? And then we got Johnny Robertson. Johnny, how you doing? I agree. Looking forward to a great game with the Tigers pulling it out. So yeah, certainly can't go wrong with picking LSU or Alabama on this one. So looking forward to it. Bubba, what do we have next?
Let's head out west to the Coliseum, where 20th ranked USC, and despite their defensive struggles, they've just lost one game in the Pac-12 and still very much right there in the thick of the hunt, hosting number 5 Washington, who's also struggled to a lesser degree defensively in recent weeks. Huskies 8-0, found a way to get it done at home against Oregon. What a game that was. Huskies a 3.5-point favorite at the Coliseum, 7:30 Eastern kickoff on ABC.
Another tough one. Another tough one. I'll start off with this one. Here's the thing about USC, and really, I really like Lincoln Riley. I think he had a lot of success in Greenville offensively. But the one thing about that style of offense, and it seems like it kind of follows him, not necessarily even Lincoln, but when you look at that style of offense, that air raid, you give up a lot of points defensively because your defense doesn't get a ton of rest. They score quick. The defense comes right back on the field. So like you look at USC this year, incredible offense. I mean, they can score 50 on anybody if they're having a good day, but they're giving up way too many points. I mean, they have to be giving up 38 points a game. If you look at them defensively, this is hard to believe with USC's talent. All the talent they get out there, they have everything in the world at their disposal. NIL money, they're in a great conference. They have a ton of revenue. They have history, but they're 114th in the country in total defense. And that is not a good recipe considering Washington is number 5 in offense. Washington averages 500 yards a game in offense, guys. So that's a bad recipe for USC this week. I think Washington is going to put it on them pretty good. So I'll go with the Huskies to not only cover, but I think they're gonna put a beat down on USC. What do you think about this one? We'll go to you next, Coach. What do you think about this one here?
Well, I coached with Lincoln Riley here for, I don't know, half a dozen years or more. I don't know what it was, but I really have a ton of respect for Lincoln as a strategist. And I think he learned his lesson. And that's been proven pretty much through his career as far as his ability to score points. At the same time, as a head coach, I don't see Lincoln Riley as Genghis Khan. And, I think he's got a chink in his armor sometimes. I think it was Tulane that beat him last year at the bowl. Was that correct?
That's correct. The Cotton Bowl.
Yeah. So, and then I've heard a little bit of crying going on here recently. Did I read somewhere that he was sick? Physically ill?
Sick?
I don't know.
I did hear something about that. I think he had to. I think I read that he missed practice maybe a few days because he had some kind of health condition going on. I'm not sure. They didn't really specify though what it was, but yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, and they've been hammering his strength coach for some reason. I don't know why, but somebody's on that guy hard. Benny Wiley, I know Benny, of course, and their guy at Texas Tech. That was
Ruff's guy and Lincoln's guy. I think he was at Texas. That's probably why they didn't bring him to ECU when they first came there. I don't know. But I have been to Washington with the East Carolina Pirates. That was a long trip. And we had to play Chris Hester that day at quarterback. I don't know if he was a second or third team guy. I can't remember who all was hurt, but yeah, it was a tough day for us that day because they were extremely talented as well. Tailback, I mean, they were talented from top to bottom.
Was
Tough
that Napoleon Kaufman? Was that Napoleon
Yeah,
Kaufman?
Napoleon Kaufman, yeah.
My
That
God,
was
he was unbelievable.
the way that game was the way that game unfolded. It was very much kind of like our Michigan game this year, where we played very well defensively, probably even better defensively that day. That was, I guess, what Larry Coyer's 1 year before he went back to the NFL or went to the NFL, if I'm not mistaken. But he did a heck of a job.
Even though we had some issues, of course, on offense. Larry, that was his year, at ECU. Defense the whole year. I think it's the same year we played Kentucky, right? At Kentucky.
Yes, sir. We lost 6-3.
6-3.
And Kentucky went to the Peach Bowl that year.
Yeah, we played good defense all year, no question. But yeah, and I know the strength coach at Washington. I think he does a great job. Because I just feel like there's some issues right now at Southern Cal, and the way that all the different weapons that Washington has. I mean, I think they're going to win this game. That's who I'm going to lean toward. I'll be surprised if Southern Cal shows up and gets all these little issues fixed that they're experiencing right now, and they need to get them fixed. Lincoln needs to crank it up, but like I said, I just got a little bit of doubt. Nothing against Lincoln. Like I said, I think he's a great strategist. But at the same time, you look at the defense and you look at the team overall, just from a motivational standpoint. I think Washington's gonna win the game.
Yeah, that defense, I think that's going to be the challenge for Lincoln. Like we all know, he's a great offensive mind. He's got a proven track record. Wherever he goes, he's going to be able to put up points and put up big numbers offensively. I think the question that's kind of haunting him right now is how does he maintain that offense, but also find a way to play great defense? And if he can ever put that together, good luck to people, because that would be a pretty potent combination. But
yeah.
I mean, you just look at them. I mean, they're giving up 40 points a week. So I think they'll score. I think they'll have some success, but they're just going to give up too many points. So I agree with you, Coach. Bubba, what do you think on this one?
Of the 5 games we're picking, this is the one I spent the least time thinking about and really didn't think about it. I just right off the bat, give me University of Washington. I watched Southern Cal early in the season. Really felt like they were very bad, kind of frauds defensively and not going to be a contender as far as the college football playoff. I took the points when they traveled to Colorado, and Colorado certainly proved me right there. What came back and lost 49-38 or something like that. And then you saw USC when they went to Notre Dame. With that, any hesitation, I took the Fighting Irish. I thought they would win that game by 2+ touchdowns, which they did. So I don't necessarily think it'll be that lopsided, because I don't think Washington plays the type of defense Notre Dame does. but I do think Washington will win this one comfortably, probably by at least 10, if not 2 touchdowns plus.
Yeah, I agree, and I think we all see the same thing with this one. We definitely see the same thing here, but looks like we have some comments up there. What does Stevie say, Bubba? Yeah, Stevie echoes our thoughts. Washington wins, no defense at USC, and yeah, I mean that's the challenge, and there's no reason why USC can't play good defense. I mean they should be able to get the players to do that. So hopefully Lincoln can. So I saw this comment from Norm, and Norm, I don't think we're ganging up on him at all. I think I'm just kind of stating the obvious. I think he's a really brilliant offensive mind, but you win big games in all facets. Offense, defense, special teams, and right now I'm just not seeing it. So Emmanuel Washington curb stomps him. So yeah, there you go. Appreciate all the comments from everybody. What do we have next, Bubba? Did we cover them all? Did we hit them all?
That's them all. And then so now let's take a look at East Carolina and Tulane. You have Tulane 21st in the AP and coaches polls. They're 24th in the college football playoff poll. Obviously, that initial poll was revealed last night, and the Green Wave are currently a 17-point favorite over our Pirates.
Coach, I'll kind of kick this one over to you. Obviously it's been a very, very difficult year for ECU at 1-7. I think that I didn't expect them to have an incredible year, but I thought they'd win 5 or 6 games, and to be here, it's obviously very frustrating. And then conversely, you have Tulane coming in, number 23 in the country at 7-1. So you have 2 teams here that seem to be going completely in the wrong direction. What are your thoughts on this game? I don't know how much you want to get into it, Coach, but if you want to, I'd love to hear your thoughts on it.
I'm a big Blake Harrell fan. I love the kind of defense that he plays. What I don't love about it, I guess, is the fact that the defense will give up big plays sometimes because they get caught making mistakes in the back end, or maybe not have talent in the back end to play as well as you need to play when you're going to do the things that they do to stop the run. I love the fact that they've prioritized stopping the run, and I think they do a great job of that. I think they're usually gap sound. I think they're physical. And I think they've recruited some guys up front that get the job done and play physical. And those are the things that I like about East Carolina football this year. Okay, so the defense gives you a chance to win, and the defense actually puts points on the board to an extent as well from time to time. And of course, if you're going to leave them out there the whole game, which was the case times this year, I don't know, not too long ago, I think the other team had 40 some minutes of possession time. The 2 years ago, when Tulane was here, as I remember, that quarterback had a very bad day. Would you concur with that, Bubba? Maybe Bubba's not here anymore.
Bubba, I think Bubba, you're on mute. If I don't know, maybe you can't comment. I think you're right about that, though, if I recall correctly, Coach. I think he did have a rough day. Yeah.
What I remembered from watching that game, because I was at the game, is I'm thinking this quarterback's supposed to be pretty good. but I thought he looked frail, and I thought defense was hammering him pretty good, and I thought he got shook up.
Mm.
And that's another thing I like about Blake Harrell is kind of, you may not like Buddy Ryan, or you might like Buddy Ryan, but Buddy Ryan like to get that quarterback shook up. And
No doubt about that.
where he would make mistakes. So I think this quarterback, you know, they talk a lot about him and his talent, and he's proven himself over the years. Of course, had a great year last year, I guess, you know, overall. And then they beat ECU last year, what, 24 to something.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the chance that I think that ECU has. You know, looking at the last game, okay, the offense seemed to improve some. At the same time, they didn't have great consistency. They had so much pressure on the quarterback. I'm not too sure. I haven't watched Tulane many times. Last week, the game against Rice got to be pretty close at the end, and I guess Tulane could have scored another touchdown at the end, not to make it was so close. If you, what alerts me is how Tulane's coach is not happy.
Mm.
He's talking about they haven't played a good game yet. They haven't played up to their potential yet. And so he's cranking it up for this game with his team because he's challenging them to play a great game, all three phases, because he's not been happy with their team as far as what they potentially can be. They're going to be talking about. Will they be prepared for the defense? You know, and I had Holt Nailers on. I want to mention that. And, you know, we went through all kinds of reads. We went through all kinds of different defenses that he's played over the years and so forth, what the difference is from collegiate to NFL. And what Holton talked about was, in practice, the toughest defense to go against was Blake Harrell's defense.
Interesting.
And because of the fact that Navy plays that same defense, they had problems with Navy last year. So that's another feather in the cap for Blake Harrell as far as I'm concerned. So I'm thinking that, okay, potentially this quarterback, they can hit him in the mouth, they can pressure him, they can stop the run. If they can do that, they'll have a chance, but they're going to have to score more points. You know, if you want to beat Tulane, I mean, in my opinion, I mean, you're going to have to score at least 24 points, maybe 31 points. I don't know, but it also depends on how well we play on defense. So I think ECU has an opportunity playing them at home. Maybe they can crank it up emotionally. I don't know what the crowd's going to be like. What is it? Military Day?
I believe so.
Military
Is it Military
Appreciation Day?
Yeah.
Military Appreciation Day, I think, usually gets a pretty good crowd, as I remember. One of the you guys left, so you're thinking that you're going to have a pretty good showing with the crowd. If ECU can win this game, that's going to put a little bit different perspective on the head coach as far as what he's been dealing with lately. I've got my own opinions there to myself at this point, but so that's those are kind of my thoughts.
Yeah, it's great perspective. I mean, that's perspective that you only get from a coach. So that's awesome perspective. I mean, I agree. I really like Blake Harrell's defense. Like if I was a player, and had the opportunity to go to East Carolina, especially defensively, that's an awesome system to play in because he's 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 got some very unusual alignment strategies that he uses. A lot of pre-snap movement, a lot of he's trying to bring pressure from different angles. So I agree. I think it's a great defense for East Carolina. Hopefully that defense can. I think at times they get a little discouraged because the offense has been so abysmal, at times this year, and the defense feels like they have to, win games by themselves sometimes. And really, like, what I'd like to see from this East Carolina team is I'd like to see a complete performance where the defense plays great, the offense plays great, and then special teams, no missed field goals, no block punts. I mean, I think that's kind of like when I watch these guys play, I think the issue is it's like you plug one hole in the dam and then another hole opens. It seems like every week it's something new. If it's not, 1 week it's a missed field goal. The next week it's, you're giving up big plays defensively. And then the next week you're throwing interceptions on offense and, throwing a pick six. And it just seems like they can't, or they haven't been able to put together a complete game this year. So it's going to be tough, and, the quarterback for Tulane, I know last night we actually had to get a guest on from Tulane, Corey Glore, and they run the ball 60% of the time down there. And I think what makes him really effective is when they run the ball well, they go play action off of that. And they're really good. They're really, really good at that. Put a lot of stress on the defense. So, I'm not going to pick I'm not going to pick the spread on this one, but I'm just going to say if East Carolina is going to stay in the game, they're going to have to play a complete game in all areas. So it's going to be tough. Bubba, what do you think about this one?
Yeah, I won't pick the game either against the spread. I will say that, if I was a betting man, then I think I would probably stay away from this one. You guys have made points why this one could go either way. And in Tulane, I want to say he's averaging about 30 points a game. However, like you just said, they 60% run, approximately 40% pass. Obviously, we're very good at stopping the run, and that obviously bodes well for us in this matchup. But based on what we've seen, and yes, it was a step forward last week offensively, but even so, until that touchdown in the final 30 to 60 seconds of the game, we had still just scored 13 points offensively because you had the pick six factored in there. So, but let's say even you do consider that final touchdown, that's still only 20 offensive points. And that's the most that we've scored all year against an FBS opponent. I just don't see us being able to score enough points against a Tulane defense that does an excellent job of making the opposition one-dimensional. Opponents are just rushing for 79 yards per game. As you know, we've struggled to block, period, whether it's pass pro or creating holes for Rajay, Gerald Green, and Marlon Gunn. And then good news is Javius Bond will be back this week. I just see this one. Last year it was 24-9. I could see this being right now it's a 17-point line. I could see this being a push. I could see it being 27-10 or something of that nature, or maybe a slight cover by Tulane, 31-13. I just don't see us being able to score enough. And I think if we are going to win, I'm right there with Coach C that we're going to have to score the most offensive points we've had all season. So maybe you get 24 offensive points and then you get another defensive touchdown.
Yeah, and I'm gonna. Oh, go ahead, Coach.
I was going to say, I've got a couple friends on staff I might have dinner with tomorrow night. I think we still have to finalize a couple plans, but or maybe not dinner, just meet with them at the hotel. But Kurt Hester, their strength coach, I've known him for a long time. I used to bring him into Carolina when we do clinics, did a great job with speed development. He's kicked around. He was Skip Holtz's strength coach. And then when they got let go, he landed at Tulane. And then Storms, who's a several degree black belt sensei. I used to bring him into Carolina for hand techniques, hand quickness and hand techniques for offensive and defensive linemen. So I guess what I'm saying there is behind the scenes, they've got a few strong people there as well, both from a motivational standpoint and a developmental standpoint that I think are doing a good job that I'm familiar with. I'll probably get a little bit more insight tomorrow night if I sit down with those guys. But
Coach, take them out for a little Italian cuisine.
Yeah.
A little penny alla vodka, some meatball.
Well, yeah, I'll get them out to Nino's, a little bit of wine. Maybe I'll get a little bit of information out of them.
I don't know, for anybody listening to this show, Coach Connors is I'll just say he loves Italian food. He loves
That's
it.
right.
He's got an appreciation for it. So, yeah, feed those guys a few bottles of wine. Let's get some intel, But yeah, I mean, my final thought on this one, like if I'm East Carolina, if I'm Mike Houston, like I want to play the role of the wounded animal, and like embrace the underdog and embrace the fact that nobody on the planet is picking you to win. You have nothing to lose, really. If you're East Carolina, you're sitting at 1-7. You have a ranked team coming in. You have nothing to lose and everything to gain. So I would really play that up this week in practice. I would embrace that role and just try to have a team, a very emotional team that's ready to go, for 4 quarters. And, what are your thoughts on that, Coach? Just the type of mentality going into this if you're East Carolina.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you look at the fourth quarter score this year, or how they've done toward the end of the games, it's not that favorable. So this is one area where they can improve upon. I don't know what the strategy would have been this week or whatever, but finishing, come out the second half, play harder than you did the first half. I had all those things that I kept track of with you guys with if somebody's going to bend over, if somebody's going to go out of the game, what the score was in the fourth quarter. I had all kinds of awards and T-shirts, and it was a big secret. We didn't have the quarter flag and the video and all that stuff, which I don't like that stuff because I wanted to sneak up on somebody. Like we were over there talking among ourselves. Hey guys, take a look at them out there. They're bending over. We're starting to come. If we were down, it's like, okay, we're coming back now. We're doing better physically with these guys. We're tasting blood right now. Let's go in for the kill. And instead, you get this flag going up, the video. The other side's probably talking about, hey, wait a second, man. Who do these guys think they're going to do beat in the fourth quarter? It's more like a wake-up call for the other team for me.
Right.
And I'm sorry, the no quarter is a great thing, the flags and everything. Hey, it's great for the fans, but I just want to sneak up on somebody,
I hear you. No, that's a good point. I never actually thought of that. I never actually thought of that, but it makes a lot of sense. Definitely from like a coaching perspective. I get it. So I think that's a really good point. But
yeah, I mean, I love nothing more when somebody would come up to me and say, look out there, they're bending over, just like you said they would. Hey, that guy just went off the field. He's done. All that kind of stuff, we're running off the field. They're walking off the field. I mean, just little things like that make a difference. I just think all that stuff builds in awareness to your team on how to finish. We had fourth quarter goals that we awarded people for. and we recognized those every week, and that brought an awareness toward, hey, we will be a fourth quarter team because that's how important it is to us. Because I'm going to get this T-shirt. I'm going to wear this T-shirt all week because it signifies that we won in the fourth quarter and I did my job.
Mm-hmm.
So we didn't have any NIL money, but we had some T-shirts.
Yeah. There's no I remember. I mean, that was a point you stressed every week was winning in the fourth quarter. The entire staff, really was focused on that, and that's an area where you had a lot of success as a strength and conditioning coach. I mean, your teams were ready to go in the fourth quarter. So hopefully we can see. Hopefully this is the week that we start to see that. From East Carolina. It's now or never, so it's got to be soon. But Bubba, any final thoughts on that game? And then before we move on, I just have one or two more questions for Coach, and I know it's getting a little late, so we'll get you guys out of here. But any final thoughts on that, Bubba?
The only thing I would say, I mentioned Javius Bond, hopefully making his return. So, hopefully between he and then Gerald Green, had a nice run or two in that second half against UTSA. I believe our longest run from scrimmage, 45 or 46 yards. So hopefully we'll see some plays from them, maybe not even necessarily in the ground game, but it would be nice to, get Javius Bond the ball in space and have him make a play or two. And when we do have those opportunities, just have to cash in the way we failed to the last time we were at home against Charlotte.
Yeah, no doubt. Those are great points. And hopefully Bond is, with his speed, hopefully he's healthy and he can, bring some big play, explosive type play to this offense, which they need because that's one area where they're really lacking is, just explosive plays. But, so we'll see. But, Coach, final question I had for you, and I know it's getting late. Bubba sounds like he's like on his deathbed over there. He's getting sicker by the minute.
Hello. Yeah, that's what been battling a bit of a cough the last couple weeks and lost my voice here in the last 24 hours.
Yeah, you got to get some NyQuil going, buddy. But Coach, wanted to ask you your thoughts. I think I have a feeling I know what you're going to say because, I think both of us are kind of college football traditionalists. We love the game. But this new NIL, I think it's just changing everything. It's changing the way coaches recruit. It's changing the type of athletes you can get, like specifically as it relates to East Carolina. It's an uphill battle. Just in general, like, what are your thoughts on this NIL? Do you think it's good for the game? Would you like to see it sort of, eradicated from college sports? I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think we went from such of one extreme to the other so fast. It just doesn't make any sense to me. We couldn't even buy a player a meal. We had to worry about, oh God, is there going to be an NCAA violation if we buy this kid a hamburger? Or what are we allowed to give them as far as recognition awards? I mean, all these things that we had to think about because we didn't want to do something. And all these very strict rules about that, what a kid could get. And so all of a sudden now, and I don't even know all the ins and outs of this deal, because I got out before all this started happening.
I don't even think the NCAA does either, so don't feel bad.
Well,
I don't think they know what they're doing either.
Yeah, so I mean, okay, you get these kids that come into your program from somewhere else. First of all, You assume that they want to work hard. You assume they're going to have great character. You want to assume that, or you wouldn't, the coaching staff would not have taken them. But you also have the need for talent. And so, as a strength and conditioning coach, I guess what I'd be wondering about is this kid going to say to me, okay, hey, I'm making $1 million. I can't afford to do power cleans today because I might injure my back, or, who knows what the thought process might be there. The jealousy within the team, of course, that's the first thing that came to my mind is like, okay, I'm working my tail off. This guy doesn't work as hard as me. He's not showing up for this or that. Nobody says anything to him. I feel like this is unfair. Why is this guy being treated differently than somebody else?
Mm-hmm.
Or why does he deserve to make so much more money than me? You got all that kind of stuff going on. Then, of course, if somebody is unhappy, they're going to be thinking, that's the first thing they're going to think about is, I got to get out of here. I'm not getting enough playing time. So my head's not in it anymore. You might even have people that become locker room lawyers. Mm-hmm. All you got to do is lose some games. That's why, and I'm concerned, okay, it seems like the coaches still it seems like they haven't lost the team at ECU, but you got to be careful, because, you're going to start losing people. You're going to have people murmuring if you keep losing games. And that's very hard to avoid.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody is going to start murmuring. And that's the worst thing that can happen on a team right there. When you have those things that are hurting you from the inside out. So I don't think it's a good thing. In my interview with Steve Logan, of course, he talked about how we had to develop guys.
Mm-hmm.
In one of my podcasts recently, I think when I had a podcast, I had Mike Gentry on, and I talked about, hey, Mike, guess what Steve let me do? We had our freshmen. We wanted to try to redshirt everybody. And Steve said, what kind of strength program do you want with these guys to develop them in season? I said, Coach, I want a 16-week program. I want to train 6 days a week. And so I had those guys in the developmental group while the other guys were in meetings. I had those guys for like an hour and a half before practice lift. We did an off-season program, 6 days a week. Yeah, I split body parts. And we got strong.
Mm-hmm.
And we're talking about a 16-week training cycle. And I really think that helped to contribute the way that we handled that redshirt year, helped us to develop guys who's a 2-star, become a 3-star, a 4-star guy. And by the time they were a senior, and you can talk about Lamont Burns, you can talk about Dwayne Ledford, you can name all kinds of guys that, you can talk about, came in at 190 pounds, got up to 240 and was, murdering people his senior year. That made a big difference for us. And what Steve was saying is, hey, Jeff, just imagine those guys that we developed when they got their senior year. They checked out on us because, they could go make money.
Right.
So at East Carolina, you got to develop people. It's going to be tough for you to recruit 4- and 5-star guys at East Carolina. If you don't have the opportunity to develop people, keep people in the boat, we're going to keep them in the boat if you win. And that's the concern now. Again, with all the other concerns of losing, that's also, I think, an additional concern at a higher level. This whole thing with portal and NIL. But I think it's particularly a concern when the wheels start falling off.
No doubt.
And that's my opinion. based on what I've seen over the years, things can become very fragile. And once, a team starts that murmuring, and believe me, I've seen it. And, I saw it the last two that I was at ECU. I mean, that's what happens. So.
Yeah, no, I hear you. It's, it's just amazing, like when we were coming up, you think back to the 80s with SMU and, all the stuff they got caught, paying players and whatnot. And that program, you remember they got the death penalty. I mean, that program was gone. They were erased. And now here we are, 30 some years later. And, you're basically saying, like, you hear coaches use the term, we need to go out and buy some players. Like that's become a common term in college football. We need to go out and buy some players. And I hate that as a college football traditionalist. I hate it. I really do. I think it's bad for the game. I think what they're slowly doing is turning college football into professional sports. And I just hate it. And, the other thing too is I hate that players, they want everything now, like back in the day, you redshirt, you worked your ass off and you waited your turn. But now it's like, if you don't play your first year, guess what? I'm going to go into the portal. I think it's too easy for guys, to just basically find another way out. And I just think the NCAA, I think they've lost all control. I really do. Like, they got to find a way to set some parameters and rein this back in, because you just wonder what the game is going to look like 10 years from now. I mean, you're going to have players making more than coaches. And I'm sure that's already happening in some cases now.
Well, they went completely off the chain. I mean, it should have been like, okay, everybody gets a little base money, because I'm all for these guys getting paid.
Yeah.
Especially the guys who had anything and their families never had anything. And some of them were worried about how to get, how to still help at home while they were in school, because their families were so far bad off financially. So I think getting paid is good, but why wouldn't there be like some form of a base pay for everybody coming in as a freshman? As you progress through your career, you earn more money. Just like when you accomplish things and you get that star or hatchet or whatever on your helmet, you should get money based on your performance, based on your longevity in the program.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, why wasn't there some thought given to that? I mean, why would you just say, this is carte blanche, baby? We got to raise $2 million to keep this quarterback here. I mean, are you kidding me? I mean, here's the thing. I wonder, like, who is paying this money? I mean, I'm gonna take money away from my family, my business, whatever, to support this player, and I don't even know if he's going to stay here.
Right.
I mean, I don't know.
I agree. I mean, it's scary, and you just wonder where it's all going to go. I fear for, the East Carolinas of the world, and how do you keep up? I mean, when you look at these Big Ten schools, like the new TV contract in the Big Ten is like $80 million per year per school, and then you look at East Carolina. I mean, we're making like roughly $7 million per year in our conference. And the difference is so astronomical. We're just trying to get an indoor practice facility built here. And, now all of a sudden the game has changed to the point where we have to pay players. And it's, I don't know. I don't want to get too deep down this rabbit hole, but like I just wanted to get your thoughts. I mean, it's kind of scary, but I I appreciate your thoughts on
Well,
that, Coach. And
I mean, can you imagine a Sunday meeting rather than giving out those shirts? We said, here's this guy. He led the team in tackles this week. Here's a check for $5,000. Who wants to lead in tackles next week?
yeah, right.
Wow.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I hear you. It's crazy. I have a feeling that $5,000 check might not last the night in Greenville. That would be spread around, hopefully, to the whole team. But yeah, I don't know, man. It's crazy. But Coach, I know I've kept you here for an hour and a half. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate your thoughts. And if anybody hasn't had an opportunity to listen to your program, your podcast is called Absolute Empowerment. It's great. You've had some awesome guests on. You guys cover some really good topics. I really enjoyed the one you mentioned earlier recently with Holton Ahlers. I thought that was a great conversation. So I encourage everybody, check out Absolute Empowerment with Coach C. It's if you're trying to find that, just go to the Sports Objective page on YouTube, or you can follow us right here on Facebook as well. But definitely encourage people to check out that show. And Coach, any final thoughts, man? I want to get you out of here. It's getting kind of late.
Well, I love this stuff, man. I still love ECU, brother. Yeah, always will. But
absolutely, there's my guy. So you had Bays on this week.
So here's what I'll say in closing. John McMillan, who used to come to all our games in the 90s with Danny Bersini. Danny Bersini had the Elbow Room many years ago, and John was the manager of the Elbow Room, and those guys came to all our games in the 90s. John takes me to the games, which I really appreciate at club level.
Nice.
This week, I used to be on the board, I guess, for Riley's Army. This week, we're going to take a young man to the game. He's battling cancer. He's 14 years old. He'll be in a wheelchair. His name is Kaysen. If you see us, please come talk to Kaysen. Shake his hand, introduce yourself. Tell him you're glad to see him. We want him to have a great day. So that's what we're going to be focused on Saturday.
That's awesome, Coach. Really, really love to hear that. I hope that young man has a great time and, enjoys the game. Really, really love to hear that stuff. So certainly a great experience for him. And really quick, what's up with Bays' haircut there? Can we get that back up? I got to make fun of my man Bays here. What's up with that? That's an old school picture. So this is like circa 1997. Bays was going with the
Jerry curl.
The Caesar cut, So yeah, just kidding, Bays. Just kidding, man. But I know you, Coach. You had interviewed Andrew earlier this week, so everybody can check that out. That
was a great interview.
Awesome, and that one is it's up on our YouTube channel now. If anybody wants to go back and check that out, so appreciate that, Coach. And hey, with that said. Like I said, I kept you here for an hour and a half, and I have a feeling we could probably keep talking for another 3 hours. But definitely, Bubba put up on the screen here. Come say hello to 14-year-old Kaysen on Saturday afternoon, Pirate Nation. That's awesome. So
spell his name with a K.
With a K, okay. Kaysen with a K. So we appreciate you, Kaysen.
Yeah.
And so with that said, I wanted to thank everybody for tuning in tonight. Hopefully the Pirates can, represent on Saturday and get a big time win. And with that said, Coach, I'm going to get you out of here. Appreciate you. And thanks for everybody for tuning in. Have a great night.
Yes, sir.
Take care.
Yep.